Well, hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the channel. Thank you for stopping by. I really do appreciate it, and it's great to see you here. In today's video, we're going to look at the gitignore file, or more precisely, the .gitignore file. First of all, please press like, subscribe, and don't forget to press the bell so that you are notified of other videos when they are released. How to use gitignore, or should I say .gitignore. Well, if you remember, we are using the calculator sample, which is also on GitHub, and at the moment it's sending NB project up to GitHub, which is something that we don't actually want it to do. So how do we stop it doing that? Well, we do that with the .gitignore file. So what is .gitignore? It's a text file that tells Git which files and or folders to ignore in a project, a repo, a repository. A gotcha is a trap, and we'll go into that at the end or towards the end of this video. Now, first of all, there are two types of files which you can use for gitignore: a local one for just the project, and a global file which is usually in your home directory, and that acts on all repositories. Okay, so let's have a look at the local file, which is what you'll use usually, and you can have more than one .gitignore file in your repo. It is possible because what happens is the rules cascade down depending on which files are where. Now, most projects will just have one .gitignore. You create a .gitignore, very simple. We'll create a new empty document and we'll call it, it's important to have the dot in, it's very important, gitignore. Now, if you press enter and the file disappears, that's because you need to have show hidden files set in your file browser. Right, so let's open gitignore. You can open it with your favorite text editor: Notepad, Notepad++, VI, Vim, Gedit, Sublime, Atom, whatever you like. It doesn't matter which one you use. First of all, what can you do inside a gitignore? What entries can you put in? Well, the first thing you can do is a comment, which is the hash. And so a hash is a comment. Next, blank lines are ignored by the system. You can put in the asterisk, the star. I'll just actually comment this out. And this is a wildcard. Oops, match. Okay, again, I'll comment the next one out. You have the double star. Now, this is a much more advanced one, and again, it's, how can I put it? Let's just call it a special wildcard. You'll probably not use it, but it is there and it's available. The next one, again, I'll comment it out, and what we'll do is inside these comments, underneath each comment, we'll actually put some examples. This is to specify a directory, and there are different ways depending on the position of the / as to what you do and how the directory is handled. The next one is, of course, a question mark. I should have probably put it up with the wildcard, and this works exactly the same. It just matches a single character. And the final one is the exclamation mark, or the bang, which is negates. So it means don't ignore a particular file. And this is actually important because you might have a gitignore file inside a folder which is being ignored. The whole folder is being ignored, but you need to actually unignore the gitignore file. So you would put the bang, the exclamation mark before the dot gitignore. For example, I'll just do that now, and like that, which means that anything .gitignore will not be ignored. Right, let's have a look at actually using some of these for real. Let's start with, this is a comment. I'm actually going to remove this and put something else in there, and I'll say ignore backup files and backup files. So if we actually put in star.back, any file or folder that matches star.back will be ignored. Any file or folder, bear that in mind, file or folder. If you want to ignore a particular file, you can have, for example, that, and it would ignore that file. The next one, wildcard, well, we used that up here. You can see any file which matches will be ignored. So let's just do it again. So that will do that. Now, the special wildcard is a little bit different, and I'm actually going to come back to this because I want to do the directory and folders next. So to specify a directory, so let's do another one, and we're going to do, say, ignore all backup directories below it. And to do that, it would be, for example, backup /. Now notice the / is at the end, okay, not at the beginning. That's quite important. So the next one, what happens if you put the slash at the beginning, and this one is only folders relative to the .gitignore file. Okay, so for example, if you put in text, then it would be wherever the gitignore file is, whichever folder it is, the text folder below it. Now, if for example you have a structure like that, then it would be wherever the gitignore folder is, the subfolder thoughts, and then the folder text underneath that. Let's have a look at the special wildcard. Now, what this does is it basically matches anything in between. So, for example, you can have... let me have a look. Say you've got a folder called A. I'm using the example, and a folder called B, but they're not necessarily, or they might not necessarily be a subfolder of each other, or they might be further down the tree. So what this actually does is it matches the following type. So it match A with the subfolder B. It'll also match A with any folder in between, and then B, and it will also match A, any folder, and so on. So this is a special wildcard. It matches, but it comes from where the gitignore file is. It's relative to the gitignore file. The question mark matches just a single character, so for example you might put in that. So this would match, for example, doc dot dos, that type of thing, dom, anything like that. So it works very similarly to the wildcard systems in normal programming. Now the next thing you can do is actually create a global file, ignore file, which is used by all the repositories. So for example, if you have a standard folder that you always want to be ignored, then you can use that. Now to do that, you want git config, and then you're going to tell it it's global, and then you need to tell it that it's going to exclude something. So core exclude files, and then you need to tell it where this file is. So I'm going to create it in my home directory. This is in Linux. This is assigned for the home directory, and it's called git ignore and then underscore global. So if you create this file here, and I can edit this file if I come into my home directory and come down. Okay, you can see the git.git config file, and you can see that there it wants this file, so we need to now create that file. Okay, in here, so let's just right click, create a new document, empty document, and we'll call it .git ignore global. Make sure I've spelt that correctly. I have. Okay, now again we can open this, and for example, I tend to use NetBeans, and I would always like my NetBeans folder not to go up, so I can actually put in NB project. So remember to put in a comment. So from now on, whenever I create a project and I create a repository, it will ignore the NB project folder. Okay, so if we go back to our calculator sample, we don't have, well, we have the git ignore, but I haven't actually put anything in it. So we need now to actually edit this to make it more sensible. So let me just remove that, and although I actually have put in the global NetBeans project, okay, I'm going to put it in here because I need to tell you about the gotcha. Okay, and that is coming up now. So I've now got the NB project in. I shall save that. I'll close it. So we now have our gitignore file, and we have the NB project. Now if I go to GitHub, you can see NB project is here, and right, so I've opened a terminal in the calculator sample, and as you can see we've got the NB project and so on. So now we need to actually do git status, and you can see there's the modified gitignore. So we'll do git add and add that to it. Then we'll do git status again, and you can see there's a modified file done. So we'll commit that. So git it git ignore, do that. We'll do git push to push it up, And there we go. Okay, right, so this is where we have the gotcha, because although it's actually in the system, we've told it it's not automatically removed. It's Git, just because you put it in the gitignore, it doesn't automatically remove it. You've actually got to remove it manually, and to do that you issue the remove command. You remove it from the cached part of Git. You tell it the name that you want, and this time we want the whole of the directory structure, and then you tell it that it has to be recursive, so you have the the hyphen R. So if we press that, okay, you can see that it's now removed it. If we do git status, it says that there's something to be committed, so git commit the project, and we'll do that, and then we'll push that up to now that's been pushed up. If we actually look at Gitignore and we'll refresh, sorry, GitHub, we go onto GitHub, we've just refreshed, and you can see it's now not there. So added Gitignore. So that's the gotcha. You've got to be careful. Just because it's in, you've added it to the gitignore file, if it's already being tracked, it's not automatically removed. You've got to remove it manually. I hope you enjoyed the video. My name is John. My YouTube channel is YouTube/jlavelle.uk. Make sure you subscribe to catch my next video, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.